Hello, hello, and welcome, Travel Week community. Thank you so much for being here today. We have a great webinar planned for today's show. We've got Aranui Cruises and Dave Mackay here, who is the sales manager. I can't wait to learn more about this product. It is brand new to me, and so I'm going to stay online and engage with Dave and learn more about Aranui, and I can't wait to learn more with all of you. Just one note of housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the course of the webinar, please pop those into the Q&A that you see at the bottom of your screen. I will make sure to answer any questions that you have live on your behalf at the very end of the presentation. So don't be shy and get those questions into Dave, and we will make sure they get answered. Other than that, the chat is also open. So if you have comments or anything like that, pop them into the chat. But questions should go in the Q&A because that way we make sure they don't get missed. And with that, I am really excited to start today's show. So thanks again, Dave, for being here. And I can't wait to hear more.
Okay, Yarana, everybody, or should I say kaho'a in Marquesian. So thank you for joining us today. And what we're going to be doing is take you on a little journey on a very unique cruise ship in the islands of Tahiti. Um, we're
Wow.
not your average cruise ship. We're a small ship cruise, but we are a combination between a passenger cruise ship and also a freighter. And we sail up to the Marquesas Islands, some of the most isolated islands in the world. They're 1,000 miles from the islands of Papeete, the main islands of Tahiti. And it's a very, very unique and distinctive culture. But before we start talking about the cruise program, for those of you who are not that familiar with the islands of Tahiti, I just want to talk a little bit about the getting there and the destination itself. So when you're flying from North America, from Canada, we have three gateways. Seattle, where your clients will be uh, flying out of twice a week without Itinerary. Also, three times a week out of San Francisco, you have United Airlines flying out of San Fran or SSFO into the islands of Tahiti. And then last but not least, the main gateway is, of course, Los Angeles. And in Los Angeles, with Air Nui, the national carrier of the islands of Tahiti, who flies daily from Los Angeles to Papeete. We also have Air France, who flies 5 times a week as well. And their codeshare partner, Delta Airlines, flies seasonally November through till March. So you have a lot of lift going into the islands of Tahiti. Where everybody is flying into is into the Society Islands. So the island of Tahiti is the main island. This is where the Whaa'a International Airport is located, and this is where your clients will be flying into. And as you can see from this image here, there are 5 different archipelagos in the islands of Tahiti, and your clients on Aranui Cruises will be visiting 3 of these. The first one, of course, is the Marquesas Islands, as I mentioned earlier, from Papeete to the Marquesas. It's 1,000 miles,
Wow.
3.5 hours flight just to get to the islands. You're also visiting the Tuamotu Archipelago as well, and stopping off on your return in Bora Bora before you head back to Papeete once again. So let's just talk a little bit about the itinerary and how this all works with Aranui Cruises. So we depart. We are our home port is Papeete, and so you'll be starting from Tahiti in Papeete on a 12-day, 11-night program. And what you'll be doing is you'll be sailing up from Tahiti here. We depart every 2 weeks, every Saturday. Departure's around about 12 o'clock in the afternoon. You board early in the morning between 7 and 9 p.m. And before you board, probably most of your clients will be overnighting in Papeete. What I would suggest that they do is that while they're in Papeete, they actually maybe want to go to a local bank and get some of the local currency, because we have the Pacific franc that we use in the islands of Tahiti. Credit cards are widely used on board, but up in the Marquesas Islands, it's a little bit different. And so your guests, for example, will be going to some of the local craft markets and things like this, in other areas where the local community will only accept cash. You won't need a lot of money. But just get like $200 or so, and you can do that in Papeete. And if you've got some time, there is actually at the airport a really good bank machine that I actually use myself. So you could do that as well. It actually works, believe it or not, which is a miracle. But it does. So that's the first thing to think about. And of course, you've got your pre and post accommodation in Papeete if you wish as well. There's a number of different hotels that you can actually work with. And we recommend Te Moana or the Pearl Resort or Le Tahiti by Pearl Resorts as well. So you're flying up through Whakarava, and then from there, it's a day and a half of ocean sailing in the South Pacific. And it's during this time that have a lot of your clients have a lot of onboard experiences with our Polynesian crew. You know, you learn to Polynesian dance, basket weave, that sort of stuff. And there's a myriad of activities that you can do on the way up to the islands. We will be visiting the 6 inhabited islands of the Marquesas. So Nukuhiva, Uapo, Te Uahoka, Hivaoa, and Fatuhiva. The majority of these don't have airports. There's only 2 islands that have airports, so they're very, very isolated. And we
Wow.
are the only cruise ship that actually visits all 6 of the Marquesas Islands. So a lot of people say, well, why do we go there? Well, the reason we used to go there was because our primary mission, which hasn't changed today, is still the same, is to service the people of the Marquesas Islands. And we bring them their goods and services every 2 weeks. And this also becomes part of the experience that your clients will be having when we come into port, for example, in Nukuhiva. All the local communities are sitting in their cars waiting on the docks for all the goods to come off, and our guests sort of can be on board the ship and get to experience and look at, you know, how all this little sort of micro commerce industry works in the Marquesas Islands. And how it works is that while our crew are offloading all the goods and services, your clients are out doing excursions in the various different islands of Tahiti. Now, we first started sailing in the Marquesas in 1959. So this year is our 40th anniversary that we have. As I mentioned, our primary mission hasn't changed. But then in 1984, we decided that it would be a great idea to actually have passengers come on board the ship. And it was really quite unique because um, I was in one of our office in San Francisco in February this year. We were sort of talking about our 40th anniversary. So I started rummaging through some old documents and stuff like that. And I actually first found the very first flyer of the cruise to the Marquesas Islands when we first carried passengers. And my favorite category on that program was deck passage. So you could actually come on Aranui Cruises and actually sleep on the deck if you wanted to. Getting goods and
Wow.
services off were quite unique in those days. We had to be very creative. As you can see here, we've got a couple of whale boats that have been strapped together with a little Jeep on board. This is a shot here of Aranui 1. And from there, we went to Aranui 3. And this is what we have evolved into today. This is the Aranui 5. This ship is a 410-foot ship, 124 meters. And as you can see, it's a combination between a cargo ship and also a cruise ship. It was purpose built for the Marquesas Islands. And this is why we are able to get into some of the unique locations and some of the unique islands in the Marquesas themselves. So there are some very, very unique anchorages that we actually have. So here, this is a little island called Uahoka. And what happens here is the ship comes in this way into the lagoon, and then it does a 180-degree turn. And we have our little whale boats here where the crew actually tie up to the rocks. And so all the passengers come up on deck and actually watch this maneuver. It's quite a spectacular thing to see when they do it in this particular area. So, as I mentioned, custom built for the islands of Tahiti. So, welcome aboard. And Candace and I were talking earlier about, what sort of passengers do we have on board, right, Candace? And
That's right. Yeah, yeah. I was really interested in that actually, just hearing the uniqueness of the ship and how it was custom built. And then I was wondering also about who the crew were and on this particular ship and how it might differ from other cruise ships.
right, and it's a a real point of difference for us because the vast majority of our staff, 98% in fact, come from the five archipelagos in the islands of Tahiti.
Wow, that's
Many of them are
amazing.
Marquesian, and of course don't be worried. They won't speak Tahitian to you if you don't want to. They speak French and English on board the ship as well. But you will feel this real sense of Polynesia. Your guests will feel very connected to Polynesia when they stay with us.
Wow,
Because
amazing.
as you saw with the cruise ship, we had the cargo and we
Mm-hmm.
had the passenger side of the ship. We carried
Yep.
two crews on board. So we have our seamen who look after the crew, and then we
Okay.
have our hotel crew who look after all of our guests on the cruise side of the ship. And as you can see here, you have that beautiful Marquesian welcome that you will see when you're on
Mm-hmm.
board. And when you come on board, it looks like a regular cruise ship that you'll be coming on to.
Beautiful.
Um, except we're a little bit different with our crew, you know, um, with our entertainment on board the ship. Our housekeeping staff, for example, we do a number of Polynesian shows on board the ship as well. And these lovely ladies you'll be waving to them because as we're doing a Polynesian night, this is the staff actually doing the Polynesian show for your clients on board the ship as well. Tino here has been with us since Aranui 1, so he's been with us a long, long time.
Wow.
And the dining experience is a little different, and we'll get to that a little bit later on. But these are the people of the Marquesas. These are our Polynesian crew. You can learn to Polynesian dance if you wanted to as well. As I mentioned earlier, during that sailing that we have, that 1.5 days of sailing up to the islands, you can do the basket weave, all different sorts of things. And the important thing to note is that we also have guest lecturers on board as well. So these are usually specialists in the islands of Tahiti, and the lectures are really, really informative. Sometimes we bring the professors from from the University of Papeete, and they talk about the sort of the difference between Tahiti and the Marquesas. So it's really interesting. In addition
Okay.
to that, how we how we break up our guests is that we have like the French speaking, the German speaking, and the English speaking groups on board. And the
Mm-hmm.
English speaking group will be assigned one of our staff, and he becomes their guide for the guide for their entire stay. And they meet at
Excellent.
6 o'clock every evening, and you talk about the day that has been and what you're going to do the next day. The guide I had last time I was on board was a guy called Stephen, and he was an amazing character. He could play the acoustic guitar like you wouldn't believe. Because
Wow.
I'm originally from New Zealand,
Mm-hmm.
and we like to say when Polynesians are born, they're all born with a guitar in their hand. They can all
Mm-hmm.
sing, they can all dance, and the Polynesian language itself was always a written language. It was never a spoken language. So
Right.
all of our history and culture is passed down through telling of legends, through carving, through tattooing, and tattooing, of course, originated here in the Marquesas Islands as well. Another quick shot of some of the crew here. We have the Aranui Band. So we don't have an
Very
orchestra.
cool.
We have the Aranui Band, which is made up of the crew.
Nice.
We do get guests who bring their own guitars on board and stuff like that, and we encourage them to interact. We allow our crew to come up on deck as well and interact with our guests at various times. And then we have a Polynesian show once during the cruise where the entire cruise group, our
Wow.
crew and our passengers come
Wow.
together for a Polynesian feast during the cruise itself.
Amazing.
So it's an amazing experience for your clients to have when they're with us on board, even without visiting the islands. These guys here are doing the haka. The haka is the war dance that we actually do on board the ship to welcome. Basically, in olden day times, I guess it was a court battle, a time to board the war canoes. So, for example, they go komate komate kara kara komate komate kara kara means this is life, this is life, this is death, this is death. Not for your passengers, of course,
Right.
but it just gives them that really cultural interactive experience. And
Yes, definitely.
so that's a little bit about our crew. So life on board, we talked a little bit about it already. We carry two we have our main lounge down here. We have our bar area, our sky lounge. We get great views from here. We have an open bridge as well. So your clients can just go up to the bridge at any time they wish, just ask for permission to go on board or come onto the bridge from the first officer or the captain who was ever in command at that time.
Hmm.
And they'll sort of talk you a little bit through some of the ins and outs of how Aranui works. The whole aft of the ship, as I mentioned, is given over to the passengers. So we have a swimming pool here. We have our little cafe and snack bar at the back here as well. And the 4 or 5 different decks that we have are all given over to the passengers when they're staying on board with us. Let's just talk a little bit about the accommodation.
Yeah.
I'm going to go through this quite quickly today.
Okay.
We have our standard staterooms, about 120 square feet. This is a product that our North American, Canadian, and US market would not normally book into, though you can. It's our lead-in category. And then from there, we just go up into our deluxe staterooms and continue from there. So 90% of our staterooms all have balconies. So I recommend, that you book your clients maybe into a deluxe stateroom. We've got our premium suites as well. In addition
Beautiful.
to that, our royal suites and and then finishing up with a presidential suite as well. So a lot of variety of accommodation on board. It's very much like a regular cruise ship. The only other difference with our cruise ship is our dining experience. We have family style dining on board the ship. We only
Wow.
carry one restaurant. Okay. So we have set menus every night. We include breakfast, lunch, and dinner each day. Lunch is normally on shore because your clients will be doing excursions. If your clients have any gluten allergies or have some dietary restrictions or anything like that, what happens is you can let us know prior to their arrival in the islands of Tahiti. And in addition to that, our hotel crew will also meet those clients on arrival and discuss their dietary options with them as well. So, for those clients who are like myself, who are gluten-free and have some dairy challenges, they do it pretty well on board. We have 2 sittings, one at
Excellent.
6 p.m. and then one again at 8 p.m. at night. So, uh, and as I say, breakfast is always included as well. So the islands themselves, as I mentioned, I just want to talk a little bit about them and some of the different activities, Candice, that the guests are going to be enjoying while they are with us. We start off in Nukuhiva. And
Okay.
Nukuhiva is the administrative capital of the Marquesas Islands. Now, when I was there a few months ago, well, actually back in February, actually, I was talking to one of the guides about the population because before the missionaries arrived and before the explorers came, there were
Right.
150,000 Marquesans living in the Marquesas Islands.
Wow.
Today, the population is under 10,000 people.
Wow.
So it's a very much a culture under threat in many respects. In Tahawai, the main village of Nukuhiva, the population went down to as little as 600, which is
Okay.
incredible.
Wow.
And in fairness to the missionaries, they actually gave them sanctuaries in the churches, and that's how the culture ultimately survived.
Right. Right.
The islands themselves, the Marquesas,
Wow.
these are the youngest islands in Tahiti. So if you've got clients who are coming to the islands of Tahiti, when we say Tahiti, this everybody thinks of these magnificent lagoons and different colors of hues of blue,
That's
white
right.
sand beaches. We don't have those in the Marquesas Islands. The
Hmm.
experience here is all about the cultural experience, the hiking, and various other sort of aspects of the Polynesian life, experiencing this unique Polynesian culture. So all this beautiful vegetation comes crashing down into
Wow.
the Pacific Ocean here that you actually see here.
Beautiful.
So this is Fatuhiva, and this is where we do some of our hiking. So what we do here is that we arrive at one village, and for those guests who want to do the 10-mile hike,
Mm-hmm.
they hike over the mountains here, and then we bring the ship around to the other village so that the guests who are non-hikers can actually, get to experience a bit of the destination as well. For those guests who are not hikers, you can still
Mm-hmm.
experience it because while we include an excursion every single day, but
Okay.
there are some optional excursions that the clients can do.
Okay.
So, for example, here with the 10-mile hike, it's a pretty difficult hike,
Yeah.
but we have a
10
four
miles is
by
a lot of miles.
yeah, we have a 4x4 excursion, Candice, that the guests can do. Okay,
Okay.
so they can still get up and pass the hikers and pass out water to them as they go along.
Great.
Um, I did it with a guy called Eric from
Okay.
he was from Long Island in the United States, and he was like 73 years of age. And
Wow.
we just took our time. And let me tell you, when you get to this point here, I have never seen as many hues of green in my life.
That's amazing.
And the village is only like 500 people.
Wow.
So it's incredible. As I said, it's a land of breathtaking beauty. And each island will offer a different experience that you'll be having. So in some of the islands that you will visit, um, you'll go to some of the museums that we actually have as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you will see some of what's called the bird dance, which is a very unique dance that's for the people of the Marquesas as well. As I mentioned earlier, this is where tattooing originated. Tapa
Wow.
cloth as well. Some of you may be a little bit familiar with Fiji, which is
Mm-hmm.
also has tapa cloth there. Tapa actually comes from tree bark, where you beat the tree bark and it becomes like a cloth-like substance, and then they
Okay.
sort of draw the carvings onto it from there. And
Wow.
actually, you will actually see some of this actually while you're on board the ship, and when you visit some of the villages, they will actually show you how tapa is actually made. As I mentioned earlier, the Polynesian language was always a spoken language, not a written language, and so
Mm-hmm.
we'll learn all about the different carvings that we have. The tikis here, you see the three fingers, and that
Mm-hmm.
represents birth, space of life and death, and
Wow.
that type of thing as well. So a very distinct culture. This is the bird dance that they're actually doing here, and it's a lot of fun for the guests. We do a
Mm-hmm.
lovely lunch after this time as well, and very unique to the Marquesas Islands. So, as I say, a completely different culture to that of the rest of Tahiti. I often
Mm-hmm.
have discussions with people when I'm down there about the great migrations that happened here in the South Pacific Islands, and
Yeah.
my personal opinion is that the migrations for that they say came through a place called Tapu Tapu in the Society
Mm-hmm.
Islands and the islands of Tahiti. I actually think it actually happened through the Marquesas because the Marquesan people, for those of you who have been to New Zealand, are more warrior-like and more like the New Zealand Maori in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
islands of Tahiti as well. So lots of different cultural activities, lots of hiking, but this excursion really sets the tone. This
Yes.
is the
Look at
very
that.
first
Wow.
day that you have uh, in Nukahiva. And so how the excursions work is that you have to understand that Aranui was responsible for employment and creating tourism in Tahiti.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the excursion operators that we use, when you come off the ship and we're transferring you, say, to this area here,
Mm-hmm.
not in a 40, there's not a whole bunch of people in a 45-seater bus. They're all little 4x4 trucks, and they're operated by the locals communities. So they have their own little micro business. So Aranui Cruises is not operating that itself. So
Okay.
basically what we're doing here is helping the communities, creating employment, with the restaurants, the same sort of thing as well. But you come out to this banyan tree here, and this banyan tree is said to hold the mana or the life force of the people. And all of the villages of the Marquesas Islands were always built around the banyan tree. These people here are doing what's called the karanga, and the karanga is the call onto the ancient archaeological site. And our guides will take you through and teach you and talk about, life as it was back in the day. And it's a very interesting cultural experience that you will also have. The other thing of note is that the Marquesas Islands in July was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Region.
Wow, amazing.
So that means that, it is now protected. All these beautiful ancient sculptures, ancient architecture is all protected here in the islands of Tahiti as well. So,
Excellent.
as I mentioned earlier, lots of great hiking here. You're visiting various museums as well. Don't be afraid of the 10-mile hike. It's not that bad. And again, you're interacting with the local communities when you visit with us here. And then, of course, you also get to visit some of the churches as well.
Mm-hmm.
They play a fairly important role in the Mackaysian life. But one of the reasons we visit the churches is because of these beautiful carvings
Mm,
that you will see all through the Roman Catholic churches throughout the Marquesas Islands as well. So
yeah.
lots of different experiences that the guests will be having. So that just gives you a really quick overview of our cruise program that we have to the Marquesas Islands. Before I finish today, I just want to talk a little bit about the sell of the
Mm-hmm.
Aranui Cruises and how we can create value for you. For
Excellent.
the Canadian market, because we price in US dollars. So for the Canadian market, we offer a 10% discount to the Canadian market, or to Canadian residents, should I say.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, we have in place a really strong special offer where the first 9 cruises of 2025, we are offering a 20% discount for those cruises, and that is combinable with the Canadian resident discount.
Oh,
So that
wow.
becomes a 30% discount for
Mm-hmm.
your clients when they are traveling in the first half of 2026 with Aranui Cruises.
Okay.
As we mentioned, we embark and disembark in Papeete. All meals are included on board the ship as well. We look after those guests who have some dietary challenges,
Mm-hmm.
and we include an excursion every day. But there are some optional excursions that you can do as well. One of the favorite ones that some of the guests like to do actually is go fishing, and they actually go out with the seamen.
Oh, wow.
And what I love about that is that when they come back on board and they've got their fish, our crew members that they've been out with, they come up into the dining room and everybody eats together. So our
Yum.
chefs will actually cook the fish for our guests,
Mm-hmm.
and the seamen who went out with the guests will dine with them as well.
Oh, that's excellent.
So it's
That sounds
another
like a
great
lot of
way
fun.
to interact.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of entertainment on board as well, all done by our crew. If you've got a guitar or a ukulele, bring it with you. Um, and guest lecturers on board. And the other thing of note is that guests can also disembark in Bora Bora.
Okay.
So we find that, you know, while our guests are travelers, they are not cruisers.
Mm-hmm.
They do know Bora Bora.
Mm-hmm.
And so often guests will disembark in Bora Bora and spend 2 or 3 nights and get that sort of society island experience. Of course, the famous Bora Bora Lagoon,
Mm-hmm.
the Queen of the Pacific, and of course, an overwater bungalow stay
Mm-hmm.
in Bora
Mm-hmm.
Bora as well. Again, as I mentioned, our guests are travelers, they're not cruisers, and it's a really very different, very, very unique experience. Candace and I were talking a little bit about earlier about the demographic, weren't we, Candace, about
Yeah, exactly. I had some questions about that. I also had questions about accommodating singles. We've had a few travel agents in the chat asking about both those things as well.
That's a yeah, okay. So with singles, we first of all, the demographic. Just talk.
Yeah.
Our guests tend to skew a little bit older,
Okay.
as they're very, very well traveled, sort of, in their 50s and into semi-retirement,
Mm-hmm.
um, but extremely well traveled,
Mm-hmm.
these guests, and looking for something very, very different, and very unique. Oddly enough, we do get a lot of single travelers on board our ship,
Okay. Okay. Excellent.
mainly single ladies, actually.
Okay.
And that's quite unique with us. And I guess it's sort of this more, it's almost a community feel when you're with us on board. So we do get a lot of single travelers on board. Um, I shouldn't be saying this, but I will. There are times throughout the year where we will actually have a special offer for single travelers, and keep your eye on this space, and we will waive the single supplement for
Wow.
single
Excellent.
travelers. Okay. And that's something that may be happening in the next little while. So be on the lookout for that as well. So for single travelers, no problem. We get a lot of them on board the ship as well. Okay.
Excellent. Yeah. Thank you for that, Dave. We have a few more questions here. Just let me know when you're ready for them.
Sure. Let's go.
Okay, great. Excellent. So, we have one question just asking again if you can go over the dining times for on board and if they are pre-booked or your guests can just show up to either
Typically, yeah,
dining time.
that's a good question actually. So typically what you do is that you would pre-book on
Okay.
board the ship. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's not set in stone. I mean, you can change it if you wanted to as well. There's no
Mm-hmm.
problem doing that. It's dining is pretty casual on board. So yeah, so I would suggest that you book your evening dinner time while you're on board the ship.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. This next question comes from Janice, and she's asking about, is there a drink package or a Wi-Fi package? And what are your suggestions about gratuities?
Janice, that's a great question. And we currently don't have a drink package on board, but that is something that we are currently discussing. Okay, so that's something again that may be happening. We do have Wi-Fi on board the ship as well.
Mm-hmm.
There is a cost for that. We actually use Starlink,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, there is Wi-Fi available. When you come into port too, you can go into some of the little local cafes and stuff like that, and they have some pretty good Wi-Fi, believe it or not. The government of Tahiti actually ran fiber optic cables all the way up to the Marquesas Islands. And so, Wi-Fi
Wow.
in the Marquesas, in places like Nukahiva and Uahuka, is really good. If you go into places, in Fatuhiva, or Tewata, which is, pretty isolated, it's not quite as good, but certainly in the main areas, it's great. But there is Wi-Fi on board. I've actually used it, and it's decent. I mean, you're not going to be able to do too much, just texting, emails,
Yep.
but you won't be downloading movies or anything like that because the Marquesas is its own movie, I guess. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, yeah, the next question, we had some questions about finding out specific rates. And so what is the website or
Mm.
where our agents can go to look at all of this? I'll
Okay,
type it into the chat.
so it's just www.aranui.com, and
Okay.
they can go there. Um, what we can do, Candace, because we'll obviously get a list of all the agents on board who
Mm-hmm.
participated today.
Yep.
We will send a link to the Aranui Resource Center.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the Aranui Resource Center has digital brochure,
Mm-hmm.
fact sheets, images,
Perfect.
videos. So all
Great.
that sort of stuff that you can download. And it also has our cruise itineraries as well. So
Okay,
a
great.
day-to-day itinerary of all the cruise for the cruise. All of our sailings for 2025 and 2026. That
Mm-hmm.
includes the pricing as well. So
Okay,
once I
excellent.
receive that, I'll send that out to everyone, and you'll have all that information as well. Okay.
That would be great. Thank you so much. So travel agents on the webinar today and those watching this, just stay tuned or watching this later because if you've registered, you'll get this email. Know that we'll send that Dropbox link out and you will get all that information. Dave, what about we have some questions here about travel agents who have upcoming bookings and they're curious like with some like questions for their clients about that. So who should they get in contact with there?
They can contact me actually.
Okay, okay,
And,
great.
and that's not
Um,
a that's I'm sorry to interrupt. That's not a bad segue actually because
yeah.
we are a specialist cruise product.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So for those of you, who want to learn more about Aranui Cruises, or if you're talking to clients who are, have mentioned Aranui, I have a little program, I call it We Are You. And what happens is that I will set up a Zoom meeting with yourself, our agent partners, and your client, and I can work, and basically I become part of your agency.
Excellent.
So what I would do, for example, like I say, Candace can offer you a 10% discount on this cruise, or Candace can offer you this, and Candace
Mm-hmm,
can do
mm-hmm.
that. So that's how, and that way I can help you try and close that sale for you as well. So I really encourage you to do that if you're, you know, struggling to get the booking over the line, so to speak.
Yeah, excellent. That is a really great resource and definitely one that our community should take advantage of. And again, noted that your contact information is just on the bottom of this slide, so everybody can see it there. Um, Dave, there was also a question about, for example, there's a travel agent, Kathy, who is going to be in Tahiti pretty soon. And she's wondering about coming to see the ship or anything like that, or if travel agents are going to be in the area and they want to see it for themselves so they can help sell it better. What would you suggest there?
Okay, another really good question. Because we arrive back in Papeete on a Wednesday.
Mm-hmm,
Okay, and we disembark, and then we sail again on a Saturday.
mm-hmm,
So on a Friday, and I
mm-hmm.
know it's day specific, but we can set up a site inspection of the ship on a Friday for you. The
Excellent.
reason we don't do it on a Thursday, or because we're coming in early morning on Wednesday, and on Wednesday, Thursday, we're cleaning the ship, we're reprovisioning it, and then on
Mm-hmm.
Friday, it's pretty ready to go. So that's what I would suggest is if you're in Papeete, or you're going to the islands of Tahiti, and you're going to be there in Papeete on a Friday, we can certainly bring you on board the ship as
Excellent.
well.
Excellent.
Um,
Thank you. Yeah. And so Kathy is asking Dave, she's going to be in Tahiti, I think, for a month. And so she's asking, can she just email you to arrange that?
yep, yep.
Okay,
And then
great.
what we do is we just get one of our marketing people to just meet her and take her on board.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. And Janice is also asking, is there a time when you have special travel agent rates that are offered?
Yeah, there is. Typically the sort of the first quarter of the year. We do have travel industry rates available. Um, we have what's called the Aranui Resource Center, sorry, the Aranui an agent, our own sort of Aranui specialist program as well.
Okay, great.
Um, and that's quite an interesting program because how that works is that, the agent rate on that program is $2,000 per person.
hmm
Okay. However, the agent can actually earn that money back. So, for example, if you go on the cruise and you book it, and then you come back and start booking Aranui, up to a maximum of 4 cruises, we'll actually give you a $500 discount that actually goes to the traveler. Goes to the travel advisor.
Excellent.
So, because the average cost of a cruise is about $7,000
hmm
um, per person. So,
hmm
yeah. So if and again, you can just contact me if you want to learn a little bit more about the Aranui specialist program.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks for that. And then Janice just had one more question she says she missed at the beginning about the number of people on board the ship.
Okay, so 103 cabins,
Okay.
and we carry, averages around about 200 guests on board the ship that we have,
Okay.
and we carry a crew of 103
Okay,
on
great.
board.
Thank you for that. And then Robin is asking, what is the best option to call in? So if they want to call in to book for a client, how should they get in touch?
Oh, okay. Actually, I should have put our reservations number on there as well.
I can
Uh,
type it in if into
Um,
the chat.
yeah, I haven't. I will. I'll send that to you. Actually, I haven't.
Okay, perfect. Just stay tuned for the follow-up. We'll send the reservation number
Yeah,
along with the rest of this info as well. And we have the website up already, so I'm sure you can find it there too. Again, that's www.aranui.com.
yeah. Yeah. So I should have put that on there because there's a couple of different ways you can get through to our team
Okay,
in San
great.
in San Francisco. So, um, and then we accept credit cards as well, of course. So that's all good. Uh,
Okay, great. And then I think this is our last question for today. We have Catherine Young just asking that about booking through a wholesaler, if there are any options to do that as well.
yeah, all the main tour operators have a contract with us, so you can book our program through a tour operator if you wanted to.
Okay.
Um, and if you do that, still feel free to contact me as well. I mean, the TOs are pretty good, but we are a specialist product.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like to make sure that, that our agent partners in particular have a really strong understanding of the program and how it actually works, and so they can pass that on to their clients as well. But yeah, sure, no problem booking through a tour operator. You can do that if you wanted to as well.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dave. Okay, we had one more final question come in. So I think it's a good one. So we'll just ask it and then we will close out the show for today. This one comes from Christine and she's asking, is there an ideal time that we should suggest for our clients to go?
Yeah.
Or a downtime, or what are the differences in season like? Like what might an experience during one season versus another be like?
You know, in the period November through March in the islands of Tahiti is
Mm-hmm.
what we call our summer season. Okay, so it's summer in the islands of Tahiti. So it tends to be a lot more humid during that period, but the climatic conditions in the Marquesas are quite different to the rest of the islands of Tahiti.
Okay.
My personal favorite time to go is sort of April, May, June, and then sort of September through October, November
Mm-hmm.
is a good time. The reason I say that is because you get into you're sort of in the shoulder seasons and airfares and things like that, and I'm sure the travel advisors can tell us that a lot more people now are looking to travel in shoulder season rather than high
Yeah.
season.
Mm-hmm,
So I
mm-hmm.
think the shoulders are a really good time to travel as well. And that's also when you're going to see if you've got doing pre and post cruising, if you've got guests going out to Bora Bora, that's also where you'll see some of the hotels have various special offers in the marketplace,
Right, right, right.
which again, the travel advisor can pass on those values, on that value to their clients as well. So
Okay.
that's what I would recommend, sort of you know, um, March, April into early May, and then sort of September.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. That is very helpful, definitely. And it looks like that is all our questions for today. So I just want to take a minute to say thank you so much, Dave, for being here, and to Aranui Cruises as well, to being here and sharing all this wonderful information about this amazing, unique product with our Travel Week community today. I want to say thanks to all the travel advisors who are here on the call today as well. Some of you asked if this will be recorded, and yes, it is recorded, and we will post this up on Travel Week's YouTube YouTube channel, so you can access it there probably within the next 24 hours. Otherwise, we will also be sending a follow-up email with that link, along with the Dropbox link where you'll get all assortment of information from Dave and Aranui Cruises as well. Dave, would you like to say anything else before we close out the show
I would
today?
actually. First of all,
Yeah.
Maruru Roa, thank you everybody for joining us today. And I just want to mention something new that we are in the planning stages of. So
Okay,
we've
exciting.
talked about the Marquesas Islands and
Mm-hmm.
how we've developed tourism. We're actually building a second ship. It's going to be
Wow.
smaller than Aranui 5, but it's going to be going to the Austral Islands, which is in the
Wow.
south. And there's no tourism in the Australs. So we will be doing what we did in 1984 in developing tourism in the Marquesas in the Australs.
Wow. That's
And
amazing.
that cruise ship, I haven't talked to our executive management team in the last little while, but they will be cutting steel, I think, by the end of this year, which is only a couple of months away.
Mm-hmm.
And that ship is likely to sail in 2027 down to the Australs. So if any of the agent partners have had previous guests on our Aranui Cruises, we
Mm-hmm.
are doing like two or three trips a year at the moment, or two or three cruises a year to the Australs as well,
Okay.
as we are learning about it ourselves. And some of the like for example, you go to a place like Rapa. Rapa we call Baby Bora Bora. So Mount Otumanu, but the difference is there's no hotels.
Mm.
There's just 500 people and this magnificent lagoon like Bora Bora.
Wow.
So it's completely different. Again, a completely different experience. So
Mm-hmm.
that's something that's going to be coming down the road in the next couple of years with our Aranui Cruises. So we are going to be expanding our offering. So again, thank you all very much for your time today.
Thank you, Dave.
And we look forward to welcoming your clients to the Islands of Tahiti and Aranui Cruises.
Excellent. Thank you so much again, Dave, for being here. And thanks again to all of our Travel Week community. Stay tuned for the follow-up email, and we'll see you again soon. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks again, Dave.
Take care
Bye-bye.
now. Bye now.
Bye-bye. Take care.